everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Crow. Today, we have a very beautiful special guest. I have 3 simple questions for you, okay? Just so we can learn more about you. The first one is, what is your name? Where were you born? And what is your life purpose? Tell us, please.
My name is Dina Bedenko. I was born in Azerbaijan, that's the former USSR. And I've been living here for quite some time, 27 plus years in San Diego, California. And I'm not really sure what I want to be when I grow up, but I do a lot of things related to art and education and activism. And one day it'll all come together and I'll be doing something. But right now I do a lot of things. I follow my interest is what I do in life.
That kind of sounds like that, you know, that is your life purpose is to align with your passions and with your interest. I would say, you know, because that's I feel that's what I'm doing, and I feel that I feel as if that's my life purpose. Like, well, I love art, I love communication, I love family, I love people, so I'm weaving all that into my own life purpose.
Correct, and that's how we met, you and I. You know, some years ago, over 10 years ago.
Has it been that long? Yeah. I guess so.
Work for the community, creating programming for the arts for Centro Cultural in Pueblo Park in San Diego. And we were on the board together.
Yeah, wow. I'm having a meltdown over here like, wow, it's been a while. Yeah.
It has been a while, yes. And that's how I met Irene too, same time. Yeah. She was doing the same thing. She was contributing music, you were contributing art. We were getting our ideas together to help the community with education and fun things and creativity. Yeah, like that's really lacking in our
civic
schools.
Engagement and all that. Yeah. And now you're expecting a baby.
Yes.
So, wow. You want to talk about that a little bit? About your baby, or?
I'm not really sure what to say. It was a little
Is it a little boy, a little girl?
It's a girl. It's a girl. She's going to be a dancer, I hope. Yeah.
Because your husband also is a dancer.
Yes, and so am I. So I don't expect her to come out with 2 left feet. She better not.
Hey, my dad is an amazing dancer. My mom is a dancer, but not an amazing dancer. So, but I came out with 2 left feet. I can't dance to save my life. Yeah. I do the back and forth.
It does happen.
No, but you know what?
She can be a rocket scientist. That's fine.
Hey,
or president of the United States. That's cool.
Yeah. Anything is possible, right? Yeah.
As long as she applies herself and pursues her talents, that's all I care about. She doesn't have to be like me or anything that I anticipate her to be, expect her to be.
And that's cool because that's why I'm having these conversations with different people, different walks of life, because that's something right now that has been really on my mind of how bridging the gap between adults and youth. And by you saying that, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel that it should be. Yeah. You know, instead of parents being like, hey, listen, you need to do this. I planned your whole life for you. You need to do exactly this checklist. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Or otherwise, I'm not going to support you. Otherwise, you know, I'm not going to emotionally support you either. So, and I run into some of those people that are like that. And I'm like, why? You know, and I get it. Sometimes I get like, well, you know, because, you know, I grew up with nothing and I just want to make sure that my kid is good and this and that. But it's still kind of like, yeah, but your kid still doesn't want to do that though. He or she wants to do something that appeals to their life.
It has very strange and sometimes destructive repercussions on somebody in their adult life when they have all their lives they try to satisfy their family, their society, certain expectations that are placed on them just to be a good person and decent person. They pursue that and then they realize that they've betrayed their soul. And that's where a lot of depression comes. There's a lot of dysfunction comes. And I've seen that. I'm 42 years old. I've seen my friends go through these things where they were so adamant about, I'm going to make sure I make my mom happy. I'm going to make sure I don't disappoint my father, you know. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, you know. I think a lot of midlife crises happen based on that, fact that we have been doing something else aside from. So I think it's really important to teach youth to try not to do that. Yes, I know it's part of our nature, human nature, to want to please, especially ladies, girls. Girls do that a lot. I want to please somebody. I want to be this good person. I don't want to stir any trouble. That's how I was. I was a really goody kid, you know?
Were you really? Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about your upbringing? I mean, did you have two parents that propelled you, or did you have parents that were like a little bit more like strict and some pushback?
Oh,
How
I
was it
thank
for you?
God they weren't very strict, but they saw at very early age that I was an artist at the core. You know,
Nice.
my first memory is drawing on my grandma's wallpaper.
You were tagging. You're doing graffiti.
I was tagging in her apartment. I think as tall as I was, all the graffiti was, you know, as tall as my little height was, you know, as far as I could reach.
Nice.
That was her entire
Nice.
bedroom. And also I played music because I was very musical. I tried to also dance, but that was too much. So and in Soviet Union where I was growing up, there's fortunately a lot of fostering of whatever skill you're exhibiting when you're small, when you're little.
Wow.
Kids are put in a lot of extracurriculars. At that time it wasn't very expensive, and I realize now it's not either. You know, you can get involved in a lot of great activities where children's talents are fostered and encouraged. And yes, it's on a strict side.
Right.
Like I wanted to dance ballet, but they didn't accept me into ballet school.
Why?
Because I was 5 years old. They turned me around because
You're supposed to be a little bit older.
No, you're supposed to have a certain body type.
Oh.
I was devastated. I thought I was never going to be a dancer. But, you know, there's a lot of strictness. There's a lot of academic approach to things, you know. They'll tell you how it is. They're not going to encourage you too much.
Yeah,
you know,
I hear
they're
you.
gonna.
Some of us do need that. Yeah.
Yes, it's a disciplinary kind of approach, which I prefer actually.
Yeah, I agree with that. In art school, I had a teacher, Mr. Lee Bryce. What up? He was like, hey, I'm not gonna pussyfoot around. Like, this is what it is, and you guys. Some of you shouldn't be here.
Some of you shouldn't be here.
He was kind enough not to say names, but you know, some of those we knew who it was, you know, and it was like, because it was that. It's like, yo, there's a skill to this. It's not just for everybody and anybody.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, the
we're
approach
studying
was-
animation.
Yeah, don't waste your time and somebody else's time.
Yeah.
Give
And your money.
And your money,
Yeah.
right? Give your spot to somebody who actually has ability. But, you know, there's truth to that. But I
Yeah.
think there's a healthy balance about everything.
For
you
sure.
know, I have a lot of students. There's some students who love dance. They're not any good at it. But they love it and they pursue it. And what am I going to say? Quit? No, don't do it. Give yourself what gives light to your soul. You know,
That's
just
true
do
too.
it.
Yeah,
So
it's just this fine balance.
It is
Yeah,
a fine
it's
balance.
kind of like
It is a
very, very thin, and you gotta be careful because you're right. Like, we also don't want to break this little kid's heart, right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe that's what keeps him sane. I know for me, art is what kept me sane. You know, like seriously, like so if that was taken away from me when I was younger, maybe I would have like I don't know, you know, like because art's always been a healing agent for me.
Right.
So without it, you know, let's say my parents or my teachers would have been like, dude, you're no good at this, stop, you know, and, you know, so.
Yeah, I'm glad no one told me to just don't do art, go to science. I wasn't any good at math or science at all. I mean, I was very clearly an art nerd. You know, when I was a teenager, I was lucky enough to be in the theater and join this youth theater. I was a mime. I was doing
Where was this? Was this still
it was in Moscow actually. There was
Where?
There was a ethnic conflict in my place of birth, the republic that used to be part of USSR. Azerbaijan and Armenia had to put it mildly, a falling out. It was an ethnic war, and we had to leave. We were refugees, so we lived in Russia for a bit in Moscow and Petersburg.
Wow.
And then we immigrated to the States. So
How old were you when you immigrated to
I
the
was
States?
about 14 years old. Yeah.
And
Actually, I came to the States 15, 16.
And you already knew how to speak English, or you learned here?
No, I learned here.
So you're fluent in speaking, was it Russian?
Yes.
And you can speak it like?
Yes. Yeah.
How do
and
you
I went
say-
to full immersion French school too, so I had French and Russian, no English.
So you speak French too?
It's not so great right now. My conversational French is...
I'm sure you can get by, right? If you were like in France, you know what to say, like, hey, I need to go to the bus stop or whatever, right?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, with a little bit of help from Google, but...
That's so cool.
Yeah, so that's my first language, and English I had to learn here, which was another one of the interests that I have is linguistics,
right?
And how language works. I have this thing where I can write and paint with two hands at the same time.
I've seen videos of you doing
that. Kind of thing that has to do with the linguistic ability in the brain, is what I read.
Whoa.
But
explain
that's also
that a little bit.
Fantastic.
Explain that a little bit more. So so you have a canvas or a piece of paper, and you're able to draw in symmetry.
Right.
Yeah?
If it's a symmetrical image, say a face or a butterfly or something that has symmetry, my hands can do exactly the same action, create the same action, and without thinking, really. I don't have to flex my brain. My brain just does it. And writing is also fascinating. I can do, if I wrote a sentence, I would literally write it out like this. So my left hand will be writing in mirror image.
That is so cool.
It's really weird.
And it just came to you natural, or did you have to work at it?
It did. When I was a kid, I just found out. I was at my relative's house, at my cousin's house, and the glass was all matted up. It was kind of cold outside, and I realized that I was writing in mirror image, and then I would walk around, look at that balcony door. Oh, I just wrote that perfectly without thinking about it.
Wow.
So, but they say it's a really rare gift, but it's really not. I have taught at Chicano Park. I've had a couple of workshops where I would give 2 pencils to kids and adults and say, go for it. Write with 2 hands. Try to write with your left hand in mirror image. Do it. And a lot of people could, It took a little bit of effort, but then they started going. And adults were like, oh my God, this is crazy.
I want to try it. Right? Let's have a workshop right now.
And then the little kids, 5, 6 years old, they would just take those tools and they would go at it. They would go crazy. And that was fascinating to me, how this is not encouraged in the society. Just even recently, people were taught not to use their left hand or, But if you develop ambidextrous ability, you develop your brain power. But very clearly, there's scientific proof that actually propels you forward and helps you with other learning. So that was very fun to do with adults and kids. This is something that I just said, well, let's do it. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's see how it works.
And
it's something I'd like to introduce if I ever were to teach a program or some sort of integrated course.
Integrate that. Can you do where you're writing one thing here and doing something else here, or does it have to be the mirror image?
This takes a little bit of effort
to do two
separate things.
But you can do it if you wanted to. Whoa.
I never got to really utilize it. I produced a video where I do that in the video, and I tried to put it out there on YouTube and reach out to the world and say, hey, if you know anything about this phenomenon that I have in my brain without really even making an effort, how can I make use of it, really? I really don't know how to make use of it. It's just this fun thing that I know how to do.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Man, I want that. Because I saw that video where you're painting, I think, somebody's back, I think.
Yeah, I painted on the body because I'm like, let's make it fun.
That was very beautiful and erotic, and yeah, that was really, really cool.
Yeah, so instead of doing it on the canvas, I did it on the human, on the big back, so I can write 2 sentences on the human canvas.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, you move out here with your parents, your mom and dad?
My mom and my brother and my grandparents.
Okay.
At that time.
And your dad stayed?
He stayed behind, but he's here now too.
He also came. Okay. And how much did that affect you, or were you? I'm sure it was kind of like a culture shock, or how did that impact you, if it did?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it did. Yeah, it did, because for a little kid there's so much there. There's really a lot there. It's a fear for your life. It's a strange. It's a deep sense of injustice, and you find yourself in this adult world where you think, why would adults decide to kill each other because of their national makeup. Because of this person is this religion and this person is that religion, or because before that war broke out, my class, for example, the school where I went to was multinational and everyone got along just fine. And all of a sudden one of the kids gets up when all that conflict began to escalate. This little 5th grader boy that I knew, he gets up and says all the Armenians have to get up and leave. You no longer belong to the school. And I remember being scared, really, really scared, because my mom's Armenian, my dad's Russian. And I knew and at that time we were starting to get threats, telephone threats toward my mother saying, we know where you live, we know where you work, we know your children, where they go to school. If you don't get out, you're gonna die. We're gonna kill you, straight up.
So things got really thick.
It did get thick. My mother was a very wise woman. She got us out before the actual. We did see some tanks and some shooting on the streets, and unfortunately, I did see some very traumatic things where people thrown out of their balconies, and it was before it got really bad. We left, but seeing some of that was quite enough. Seeing the angry mob rolling down the street saying, "We're coming for you," was not easy at all for someone who was just prepubescent or just reaching teenagehood, and then when we came to Moscow, it was in the early 90s. It was a complete economic collapse in the country. There was shortage of food. All you saw, if you were there during the time, if you were, even in the United States, watching the news, people standing for toilet paper was an absolute truth. There was so shortage of everything, and then we were refugees arriving there, and people were very angry. Local people were very angry. They did not need extra mouths to feed, so we lived in the refugee confinement for a while. We were on the streets for a while. It was a lot of struggle. But you know what? We survived. And even now, watching the news, current situation with anti-immigration sentiment and tearing children away from their parents during the hardest part of their lives, when they have just escaped death and came to another country, and now I couldn't imagine being torn away from my mom at that time. I think it would have just been the most awful thing that you can endure.
Devastating, and traumatic. I mean, for really forever, I would say,
Because all you have is each other. You have your family, you have your brother. I had my brother, I had my mom. We were a unit, and that's the only thing we had. And if we had to be separated at that time because the political policy, some policy had to be followed, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what my mother would have done. I mean, it's just the most cruel thing. Absolutely the most cruel thing.
That's really heavy, yeah.
And then getting up, a friend of mine told me that her 3rd grade student told her to go back to Mexico. And I'm like, oh, that sounds familiar.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I've seen that already. And I can't believe I'm seeing it again, 20-something years later. In the United States of America, that was gracious enough to reach out and say, refugees, come. You have everything. We'll give you everything to stand on your own 2 feet until you can go to school, you can get a job, and everything's going to be provided for you. That was the most generous, the most compassionate thing that our family received, and I will never forget it. I will always be grateful. Yeah. I'm just seeing the erosion of all those principles now in the United States, and it makes me mad. It makes me really mad.
I was in Kosovo earlier this year.
Yes, I saw.
And people there, Albanian people, were very generous and loving, because they were like, "You're American, and you know what? The Americans helped us,
right.
So therefore you're welcome here." And they helped us to fend off Serbia from bullying us, from taking our, because they had a war in Mitrovica and those areas there, and they were telling me about it, and I was learning a little bit about it, and I'm like, you know what? It's interesting. I was telling them, I was like, people who are from my ethnicity, like Mexican descent, are being kicked out right now from the States. They're being taken apart. Kids are being separated from their parents. Then there's the whole Muslim ban, you know, and then African Americans men are being shot by the police.
And women, for that matter.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
And I'm just like, so I was just kind of like being a reflection to them, like, listen, I'm happy that you're grateful that the United States helped you guys, but right now the United States is not helping their own people. It's just so weird, you know. And they were really like, what? Like, really? And I'm like, yeah. It's
well,
just...
there's certain truths that people don't really understand watching the news and the image of the United States
and the films that they see. Yeah,
there's certain stereotypes that they think are in place, but you know.
And that goes back to the whole concept of, I always say, like, travel as much as you can, because then you see how much closer you are to other people around the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I was in Pakistan, and the kids out there, I look Pakistani.
Yeah.
And kids were like speaking to me in their native tongue, and I'm like, in Urdu, and I'm like, what? And they're like, you know, they also speak English, and they're like, you don't speak Urdu? And I'm like, I'm not from here. They're like, yeah, right, dude. Yeah, like, you are from here. And I'm like, no, I really am not. But I know, I mean, I'm sure somebody in my lineage is, you know, it's gotta be maybe my grandfather or somebody.
We're all mixed up.
And they're like, you gotta be, man. You gotta be, because I'm seeing a reflection of each other. So.
Yeah. I think it's crucial that the kids after high school, when they complete their high school years, they need to travel. I think the government needs to provide, our tax dollars should be paying for young people to go and study abroad or do some work abroad for about a year. They'll come back completely different.
Yeah. I just told that to my daughter who's 18, and same thing, and talking with her. I'm like, how's school going? And she's like, you know, she's like, Dad, you know, it's not my thing. I don't like school.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? You didn't hear it from me, you know, but go travel. Seriously, go travel. Yeah. And she's like, you know what, Dad, I have a car payment now. And I have, you know, to pay for certain bills that I have now. And I'm like, listen to me. The older you get, the harder it's going to get for you if you continue down that path of acquiring certain materials that are expensive. Yeah. Okay? So if you consider getting yourself a house, you know, because you have that nice credit, it's going to be very difficult for you, because I, as your dad, I don't have much, you know, and you know how I live. I live a very simple life. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't really be able to, like, help you out of certain financial pickles, you know, because I just come from nothing. And now, is that my mentality that I'm broke? No, but I'm also being realistic with her. Like, listen, travel now. Yeah. You're 18, get out now. And then when you come back, when you come back, you're like, boom, I have more tools, I have more understanding of how this world functions.
And what I'm going to do in the future with myself, because I found doing something useful in life, as opposed to being completely clueless in college.
That's how she feels right now. That's how she feels.
And it's completely normal.
And I run into a lot of that with, you know, students, like young adults, where they're like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do.
I didn't know, like I said earlier. I still don't know, but...
But don't you feel like, similar to you, I grew up, like, being an artist. Like, I saw my dad painting on a poster board, and I was like, I'm an artist. Like, that's me, right? Mm-hmm. And I started painting, and I haven't stopped since, or creating in a certain way. Mm-hmm. So to me, I was like, yo, that's my purpose in life. That's my purpose, is to create and to share and to learn. Mm-hmm. And you don't feel that way, because early on you knew that this is me. I'm a creative. Yeah. And you don't feel that aligns with your life purpose.
It certainly does. What's really now coming more into focus is that I'd like to inspire people to follow, because creativity, being a creative, is no picnic. It's a struggle. It's an emotional, psychological struggle, because even things like surviving criticism, surviving so-called artist blocks, surviving insecurities about this and that, and your purpose in life, and scrutiny from other people, and financial instability. That's our number one thing, right? How do we almost are not made to be able to monetize our gifts, right? Because our head is in the clouds. We're always distracted by the fairies up in the air, and we're always thinking about abstract things, and instead of focusing, oh my God, I gotta pay my bills. Oh shoot, I gotta plan for my life. You know, I've got to get some sort of a certification for this and that, and I have to not miss this meeting, and things like this. You know, it's hard for creative people to focus on those practical, pragmatic things, and that compounds to self-loathing. Oh, I'm such a failure. I'm such a failure. Oh my God, I can't believe I just graduated and I have $80,000 debt from this very prestigious art school, but I don't know what to do with myself. I've been there, you know? I just got the most useless. Why did I get a liberal arts degree? I want to kill myself. That was the worst idea. Of course, that visits you. That definitely does a number on your psyche. So I think it's important to really reprogram a young creative's brain and say, you know what, this is your superpower. This is not your it's not a detriment. It's a gift.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're multi-talented. Oh, I want to dance. I want to paint. I want to do photography. I'm interested in film. I love fashion. I love languages. I love to travel. Why do I have so many things? You know, they're driving me crazy. I'm just all over the place. I can't focus. You know, why can't I just be a mathematician and just
get done with it?
Get done with it. You know, why can't I just be Einstein all my life?
Yeah.
That's it. Just sit in be a mad scientist. That I have thought of that too. You know, I felt like that was a curse instead of a blessing, that I have so many interests and I don't know how to combine them or utilize them or monetize them. You know, so it's good to be able to help kids navigate all those things, all those worries, all those things. And I have an excellent strategy I've been working on for a couple of years now, collecting information and kind of channeling through those strategies. And one day I will bring them out when I write. So far, right now, I teach dance. I teach samba. I truly enjoy it. But the reason I even came here to speak to you is because I need some sort of I'm reaching out to get in touch with someone or an organization with whom I can contribute those skills with inspiring young people, little teenagers, any age, really.
Awesome.
Any age.
That's along the lines that Irene and I are working with, which is bridging the gap, going back to bridging the gap with adults and youth, and that it falls exactly with what we're doing, you know. So we definitely gotta sit down and throw some ideas. And the other thing,
even doing lectures or seminars or workshops or whatever, one-offs, it's completely fine with me.
What I was going to say is that we're sitting down and speaking to different organizations that are doing the same thing, but at a grander scale. And same thing, being like, hey, listen, this is how we can contribute, you know, like, put us in, we're ready, you know? Yeah. So definitely, you know, you came to the right place.
Keep me in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep me in mind.
Yeah.
Right now, being a painter, being a dancer, I have an entertainment company. I produce entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. Baby's going to be born in a couple of months. It's going to be a whole lot. So sometimes it's difficult to navigate all those desires, all those ideas. And I don't like to bury inspiration when something comes and comes through you and says, you need to do this. You need to do this. It just keeps whispering in your ear. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And you're like, how do I manage my life so I can do all of that? You know, it's conscious way of living. It's a lot of, you know, giving yourself positive talk and saying it'll come to fruition at some point. Just have faith and apply yourself and reach out. If somebody reaches out, then say yes. You know, sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to say no.
It's the same thing. Find balance.
Yeah,
you know? Find
balance.
I found it to be like, you know, for me personally, it's like you have to have thick skin to be in this culture of being a creative. And truthfully, like, and Irene will tell you, my wife will tell you, is like, we're always on the front lines. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is like, first we're family, then we're artists, and then the rest come. You know, that's it. You know, like there's no other option for me. You know what I mean? Because that's who I choose to be, and that's who I am, and I could choose to do other things. It's just that this is more important to me. So, you know, it's one of those deals that, like, in a partnership, it's even more difficult because you know, if I'm by myself, then hey, I'm okay with living in the mountains and coming out, you know, every so often.
Being a hermit and doing crazy stuff.
But now it's I'm a family man, and I got 4 kids. You know, I'm still really connected to my older kids as well, and it's like, okay, so I gotta then figure out ways to create solutions to provide for them, you know, emotionally, financially, spiritually, and I always do, you know, somehow, some way, and then of course Irene is doing her thing. And then my older kid's mom, she's been very supportive. She's always been like, hey, you're an artist, you know, it's like you have to do what you need to do.
That's fantastic.
And so in that way, I'm blessed that I have a group of people that are like, yo, what you're doing is valuable, it's needed, keep going, you know. And same thing with my parents, you know, hey, keep moving, if you need anything, let us know. And I appreciate that. But
how great is it to have that support?
It's amazing. But at the same time, I also want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and be like, I want to add to you, you know, in all aspects of the way, all realms, you know. And that's where, as a creative, then I got to figure out creative ways to provide that, you know. But it comes with thick skin, you know. That's why I say you got to have thick skin and be honest with ourselves and be like, can I do this or can I do that? And what am I stronger at? You know, I think I'm stronger here, so I'm going to stay in this lane, you know? But
that also takes skills and experience in living a life to really understand this is how I'm going to do it without stress, without putting too much pressure on myself, without getting sick, without getting self-destructive. There's so many, how many friends do we know that are so self-destructive? And they think that creative urge is what makes them that way. Is they have to suffer in order to produce art. That's something that we need to teach kids too, is that it's a positive thing and you don't need to suffer. You don't need to self-destruct in order to keep working on your art, keep working on your purpose. I'm really inspired by you guys. I watch you guys. Social media is how I watch you guys. I do watch you guys. You're a power couple. You had these 2 beautiful creative children. When I see your girls painting on your painting, I'm like, yes, he's there. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. He just made something out of this thing that the 2 younger girls have just painted on, and here it is a substantial spiritual influence on the world, and it's beautiful. It's actually great.
And that as a creative and as an artist, like, you know what it is. Sometimes it's like, I need to do this. It's for me to release or it's for me to create. So it's also that of understanding and being so clear with yourself of being like, what's more important? Is it my family, my kids, or is it my art piece? So when my little girls come and they're like, hey, Dad, they don't even ask me. They already just go straight to the paints, their brushes, they get them, and they're like, we're here to create. Who am I to tell them no? No, this is a piece that Daddy's working on and it's worth this amount. Like, nonsense. Like, please get in there, and before you know it, they take over, you know, and then I'm in their way, you know?
I know, I saw that. I was like, I don't know. I'll be working on a piece and the little one comes in and says, okay, I got some ideas for you. And I'll be like,
Yeah. And that's the beauty of life. You know? That's where
go and make it,
that's where we now create a new path. That's where we then teach our youth, this is it. But then I'll bring that lesson with them when all of a sudden their little egos flare up with themselves and they're bickering. Like, oh, she doesn't want to share this. I'm like, hey, remember? Like, Galaxy will be like, well, Magia doesn't want to share this with me, right? And I'll be like, hey, Magia, remember when I allowed you to paint with me and I allowed you? And she's like, oh, yeah, same thing. It's the same thing with your sister, baby. And she's like, oh. Lead by example. Because they're learning not by my words, but by my actions. And my vibration.
Precisely.
My vibration. I could be like, yeah, paint, but I'm like, yeah, paint, go. You know, I'm all upset. They're gonna feel my vibration and be like, I don't think Daddy wants us here. But instead, if I'm truly in tune with my vibration, be like, create. Please,
and they're still operating on so much energy fields and your attitude and your real feeling, your true feeling, as opposed to what you say. So that's why that whole method of do it because I say so, even though I don't live by that example, just do it. That's hugely destructive and dysfunctional for someone to learn that way. But leading by example is the ultimate way to teach somebody to do something great for themselves, you know, or it's something that will last forever.
Exactly. I know the painting
plant that seed.
maybe the painting will, I don't know, rot or break or whatever, but that memory is there forever, hopefully, and be like, yo, I remember our dad will let us like create with him freely, you know.
Those are the things that you remember.
Yeah.
Those things those things stick. Things stick really in your psyche, in your makeup as a human being. I believe it. I think you're raising your kids in the most incredible way. It's so great. I see them thrive and being themselves and being so cute. I haven't seen them in so long. Like I don't think I've seen your younger daughter before.
My kid, the 5-year-old. Yeah. No, I mean it's been some time that we haven't seen each other.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So and based on your experience, right, and growing up and having that, what are some tips, suggestions, ideas of how we can bridge the gap between parents and or adults and youth? Like, what would you say?
Well, we've already touched on a lot of things as we speak. I think the main bridge that you can establish is honesty.
Okay.
True honesty. You have to really dig deep and say, I'm going to be sincere with this child. I'm going to be sincere with this young person because they are going through a lot of hormonal changes. Like I would like to work with teenagers. I know they're plagued with pubescent crazy in their hormones, their chemistry, and so there's a lot of emotional things and a lot of growing pains and stuff like that, and I like that challenge. I think the best way to do and to be is to really explain to them why can't you do a certain thing, why should you do a certain thing, and you just have to tell them the truth. And sometimes people say, oh, but I'd like to protect my child from this horrible truth of why that is. Yeah. And it's a difficult decision, but I think that I would have liked to know truly why some things are happening, why the injustices in the world are happening, why do people hurt each other, why do they do these irrational, crazy, destructive things, why did somebody kill themselves, why did, things like this, if you explain things to young people from the perspective of true, because they're still very spiritually connected. As they grow up, they lose that connectivity with nature, with life, with people progressively, more and more. They start to get a little bit more materialistic, they start to get disillusioned about things, they start to really rebel. And that's how, I think that's how you accumulate dysfunctional thinking and behavior in your life, and that's how you project it to the world. You're this perfect innocent creature, and then you start to lose all that because you don't have the environment, a proper environment. That's why I really respect what you and Irene do, is because you create a nourishing environment for your kids, by being more intuitive with how your hearts are. And it's not like you didn't survive trauma and crazy. We all go through it. We're all adults. We all go through some sort of trauma. But how do you navigate that trauma, and how do you really pass it on? There's a lot of untruths, a lot of false notions that we teach our kids that are just awful. Like I don't know, just superficial stuff. Superficial
like
stuff.
Go after the car, go after you need to go to this prestigious university, you must become a doctor, like that kind of stuff, or how do you
that kind of stuff too, or sometimes not easy, but sometimes things like admitting to your kid that you are depressed, or that you're an alcoholic.
I see what you're saying.
Or that your father hurt you when you were young, or just keeping family secrets. Things like this. And I'm talking in broad terms, but I think that the life education that we should give to kids should go from every single aspect of our lives.
Absolutely.
It's not a separate thing, because this is how the education system is devised, in this very fragmentalized way. I think it needs to be more integrated. Math should be, if somebody explained to me math in terms of music and architecture, I think I would be so much better at math than trying to just kill myself of boredom, and thinking of myself as, oh my God, I'm so stupid, I'm so dumb. I remember crying in class because people were solving that particular formula, and I was like, I'm a freaking imbecile. You know,
Really?
I'm so stupid.
Oh.
I remember just crying because I
Oh.
couldn't. And my mom was so much better than me at that, and she would just be very impatient with homework and say, "How can you not understand? Can someone just sing it to me, and maybe I'll understand it that way."
You know what?
Integrated approach to learning. I'm all for it. I think that's the way to do it.
I was gonna say, honestly, in high school, I would just ditch and go party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And part of me kind of was like, well, you know what? I could have applied myself more, but just school was not for me.
Yeah.
You know, like that. Not that way of teaching.
That way of teaching. Yeah.
You know, but exactly, like when it came to creating and when it came to like drawing, painting, I'm like, please, you know.
Yeah.
I want to learn. You
Yeah.
know? So we go back to that, you know. It's like, I think as parents, maybe we can say is being honest with ourselves, like, hey, you know what, my kid doesn't learn according to this way of teaching that the system has, but they're very smart in other ways, and you know, so what can I as a parent look for them to engage them in that a different type of schooling.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, considering options and being yourself a teacher, because you're the number one teacher, you're a parent.
Exactly.
This is where the initial ways of learning come from, is how you parent them, how you teach them to. Yeah, I think education system has damaged people, damaged generations of human beings in every possible way. Psychological damage, social damage, any kind of damage, you know? Just because it was so rigid and disciplinary and not encouraging of we're all unique, we're all completely unique. It's not right.
I agree.
Yeah.
If I may take it back to when you moved from Moscow to the US, what did your mom tell you? Like, was she honest with you and tell you like, hey, listen, we're moving because there's a war breaking out, or what did she say?
Yeah, well, you know what? She wasn't really saying much. I'll be honest. She was overwhelmed. She was in her mid-30s, early 30s when that stuff hit the fan. And she was in a survival mode.
Okay.
She was in a protective survival mode. And also, I can't really explain it. It's something that you just sublimate. You don't go, Mommy, why is the world so unfair? You don't. You just freaking deal with it. You freaking deal with it. You just saw, you know, some traumatic stuff, and guess what? You just kind of internalize it. You internalize it, and then you kind of try to forget it.
I see what you're saying. In the spare of the moment, you're not there introspecting like, hey, Mom. You're more like, okay, this is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, and because you're a kid, you don't really think that, oh, maybe that's not normal, because you don't have the life experience.
I understand that.
Maybe you think that recently on Facebook I shared, which was kind of crazy, but I was compelled to do so. I shared my experiences about the sexual harassment that I've experienced since I was a kid, as a woman. And because women internalize all that for various reasons that they don't share that information. If you have been exposed to that since a very young age, say 10 years old, 11 years old, sometimes younger, you kind of are influenced to believe that this may be the way it is. You know, when I saw a guy flash me when I was a tiny kid in my little stockings and my little backpack, getting off the bus, going to school, to my musical academy, the guy did that to me. Small girl with pigtails. He did that, and I'm like, well, I guess that's how guys are? That's how men are? You know, I didn't go to my mom and say, hey, Mom, what does that mean? I just saw this really disturbing thing. I was almost going to throw up. It was not a pretty picture. But you think maybe that's kind of normal, maybe that's life, maybe that's how it is, because there's no one to tell you, oh, that was a pervert, that guy was, you know, maybe nobody did see it, maybe nobody intervened and said, you know what, you need to be arrested for abusing this child right here. So you think that that's kind of normal. You grow up and you witness traumatic events in life and you're like, that's life, that's part of life. You know, so to me, that's kind of how that learning process was. That's part of life. That's how life is. You just have to build the strength to overcome and survive and find ways to. My family is a survivor. My Armenian side of my family. The reason I'm sitting in front of you here is because my grandfather was my great-grandfather was the only person in his family who survived the Armenian genocide. He was a small child, and he witnessed his entire family being killed by the Ottoman Turks. And that's why I'm sitting here. And that was in at the turn of the century during the First World War. That's in our family makeup. And then years later, it happens again. Armenian people are being persecuted again, and so it's something that we're all survivors. Look, it's 21st century, and we are here. How did we survive? We survived via our ancestors' perseverance to be alive and give birth to us. So it's just, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I guess. That's something we can learn too, and just tell the kid, you know what, kid, you're here because guess what? People have overcome. Learning history is so important, not to repeat. Like, I don't know. Repeating the same awful events and doing the same thing over and over to a generation of people because you're ignorant, because you haven't learned that, because you would rather your family or your society or your church or your country would rather teach you bigotry and hatred rather than teach you the real history of your people.
Of course.
And that's very unfortunate.
I feel that a part of that is just the way the system's designed. It's like they don't want you to be, enlightened. Educated. They don't want you, educated. They need workers. They need productive citizens. They just need you to hush, go to work.
That's why critical thinking isn't taught in our country. That's why so many people have watched Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and they didn't really register. They didn't register the actual discourse, the information.
Right.
They registered his rage, his excitement, his being very pushy.
Yeah.
And they read that as a sign of strength. As opposed to the complete nonsense that he was saying. They didn't have a point to... sorry to go political. Sorry, not sorry.
I mean, honestly, these are open for a conversation about anything. I myself am not political because for me, I feel that I believe that it's like, you know what, it's a certain game that we're in, and the people that make the game move, they have their own agenda, and
yes, but that affects us directly.
It does. So what I'm saying is, let's go out there and stand up against it. Let's not take that. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying with that is like, let's do it with clarity. You know what I'm saying? Because the people that I run into that are political and they're activists, it's almost synonymous with anger. Like they're really angry because they've suffered trauma because, certain people, certain race overcame theirs or things like that, and I get it. And all I'm saying is like, I'm not saying put up with it. I'm saying let's be clear about it. Let's be educated about it. And then really be pointing with how we respond. That way then we're not just there fighting a fight with pure anger, because sorry about that. I feel that the people in power, I feel that maybe they do have anger, but they're also very clear with their agenda of what they're doing. They're very smart, and I feel that they're very tuned in all realms to know exactly why they're doing it. It's not, we don't know why they're doing certain things, but they do. Yeah. So what I'm saying is
they have a broader goal that they move.
They have the foresight. They know exactly why they're doing it. And like now what I'm saying is, you know what? Let's really align with our being and be clear, and then connect with other people that are being very clear and level-headed and do things with that clarity.
Yeah, there's a place for nonviolent resistance and there's a place for righteous anger in my mind. There's always a fine balance, right?
There's room for everything. That's just it. What I'm saying is like, if we're suffering from this, maybe it'd be a good idea to try a different approach. Maybe my approach is, let's be vulnerable. Let's talk. Let's shed all this nonsense that ain't serving us no more.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's shed, because like you, I thought my past was traumatic, but now after hearing yours, I'm like, why was I even upset about that? You went through so much more. And then I talk to somebody else. I'm in Kosovo, and I hear their story, and I'm like, whoa, like, I have no reason to complain. So what I'm saying is,
it's all relative. It's all relative.
Let's have these conversations. Let's be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Like you shared that post about you and your what you've encountered with men. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. That's enough of that. That's enough of that.
Right.
What's been happening is, for countless years, we've all put all that stuff, all that junk that has happened to us, and we've just preserved it in our gut, and we just don't say it, but things trigger us.
Yeah.
And we're mad.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens then is, but then we try and organize, see? So you and I are like, okay, let's get some people, let's organize together, and let's fight for the right cause. But none of us have dealt with our own things.
Yeah.
And then here I come and I say something without trying to, no intention, but I say something like, oh, well, something. It's some, and it triggers you. Yeah. And then before you know it, you and I are fighting.
Yeah.
What happened to the cause?
Yeah, take care of yourself first.
We never got
that issue first.
We never got a chance to really even move forward with our united cause, because guess what? We all have our walls up. Yeah. And it's not right to say certain things in front of other people. It's not right to say. All I'm saying is, let's put the walls down.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Let's take care of that, and then truly, then let's go to work.
Mm-hmm. And what's at the essence here of everything is, you're trying to teach the young minds to be vulnerable, to be truthful, to be sincere, right? That's at the core of what we're doing right now.
That's our future.
That whole thing. That is our future. You teach the young kid to be.
But they're gonna learn. See, but that's the thing. See, they learn by vibration. Mm-hmm. We learn by vibration. We learn by actions, right? And if I'm teaching my kids, right? Hey, forgive. Hey, love. But then I look at my wife and, be quiet, shut up. Can you please I'm talking to my kids, shut the fuck. They're going to be like, Dad is not authentic to his words. And his vibration is not meaning that. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm saying. It's like, like you're saying, years ago, I was in the Centro, organizing with you and others, right? And putting on a mask. Yeah. Hey guys, good vibes. I love you all. Blah, blah, blah. Let's organize, right? I come home and I'm the meanest person to my family. I'm the meanest person to my wife or to my partner at the time. I mean, inauthentic. Mm-hmm. And everybody can sense that. You can just sense it, right? Growing up in the streets as I did, you just can tell like when BS is coming in.
Yeah.
Period.
Always.
So, what I had to do, and I don't know if you remember this, is I had to disconnect from that. I sent an email to everybody, or I think in one of the meetings I said, "Hey guys, I need to handle my crap.
Yeah.
I need to figure out what it is."
It takes a toll on you.
I think what happened was that I made a conscious decision to stop lying to myself, and in turn to stop lying to the rest of the people. Mm-hmm. Went home. I started really analyzing myself, having introspective sessions with myself, and really cultivate honesty with myself. Mm-hmm. And in turn, cultivate honesty with my partner and be like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I found out, that this is why I am here. Mm-hmm. Do you want to be with me? You're not going to change me, okay? I'm not going to be your pet project. Like, this is who I am. And then my partner was like, okay. Let's learn together.
Let's learn together.
So then what we did is we cultivated a bubble here at home. And this is how I behave with you is exactly how I behave with my partner and my kids. So it's actually the other way around. Is whatever we cultivate here, we go out and share it. Mm-hmm. We absorb and learn, and then we bring it back and digest it here as a family. And then we go back out and we share. If I'm too tired to share, I stay here. I don't go out. Even if I have a beautiful, powerful meeting, I'm like, I have to cancel. Mm-hmm. Why? Because first is me, and then my family, and then I go out to the community. Mm-hmm. And then I bring back. See? Mm-hmm. But always, it starts here. before you came, we were having a little introspection session between us, my family and my 2 daughters, and my wife. We're just there. Today we're grateful for what? And we go in a circle and write down why we're grateful. Okay? Today, I'm grateful because of this and that. See? So we always start with gratitude and then we go into deeper things. Okay? We talk about our experiences. We just came back from Brazil as a family. Okay. Hey, Galaxy, I know you were really affected by poverty there. But did you notice that there's a lot of poverty here in San Diego? Have you noticed that there's people living in the streets? Yeah, Dad. Okay. So let's understand how this financial literacy works. Let's learn together. So that way then, as you start getting older, you then can create some of those creations you talked about. She talked about creating a safe space for homeless people. I'm like, okay, for that if we're going to do it in this game, we need money. We need resources. Okay, we can barter and we can do other things, but we also need money. We got to bring financial literacy to that. So we're learning here, and then we go out and we learn out there. And now I'm learning through you. See?
I'm learning through you.
And then,
I'm like taking notes right now.
Yeah, back and forth.
This kid's going to be born. I got to utilize those strategies.
You know what? But it is that. See,
Yeah.
it is kind of like, hey, what have I gone through and what do I need to shed? It's okay to teach. It's like I told my daughter, Galaxy, here we're in a bubble, beautiful girl. Here you're being fed, well fed, you're getting showered, you're getting everything you need here. Once you step out there, even in your beautiful school, it's going to be different. Okay? And this conversation actually started because a little girl at school, it sounds like out of the blue, I don't know, I wasn't there, but out of the blue, she ended up beating up Galaxy. And Galaxy's never been hit. I've never touched her, Irene's never touched her, nobody's hit Galaxy. So to her, all she did was sit there and take it, and she actually balled up and took it.
Yeah.
She doesn't know how to defend herself because I hadn't taught her that.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, it's time to teach you self-defense. It's time to teach you about what's out there. Here in this bubble, you don't get that, right? No, never. Okay, out there, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
All right? So I'm going to prepare you. We are going to prepare ourselves for that, period. Okay? And I go in as far as let's connect with our ancestors through spiritual guidance. We're all protected spiritually. But for X reason, we don't. You have a guardian angel. You have a spirit guide. You have all that. Why don't you tune into that? And she's like, can you teach me? Absolutely. So while in Brazil, she's like, hey, Dad, can you teach me how to connect with my spirit guide? And I'm like, absolutely. The most beautiful thing happened. She tapped in after a little bit of advice I gave her. She was crying out of joy. She was like, wow, my spirit guide is so beautiful, Dad. And he's giving me this information. And I said, what did your spirit guide say? And she said, what did she say? To have fun. To always just have fun, Dad. And to see the joy in everything. There you go.
Wisdom right there.
There you go, baby. That's it. Have fun. So that's all I'm saying is before we go and the system and F this and fuck. Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not.
Start in your own home.
But let's prepare.
Yeah.
Let's prepare because they're prepared.
Yeah.
They're very prepared. They got the guns, they got the wisdom, they got the knowledge, they got it all. Because this system has been in place for countless years.
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay? They purposely separate families, as they've been doing here in the States, purposely because they know that that's going to cause trauma to these kids. So guess what? As they grow older, our hope is diminished. Why? Because these kids have been broken. Because all they're going to be in their head is, I remember when I was separated.
Nobody.
I was separated from my mom. And then, apparently, according to the news, is that a bunch of kids are missing from that separation. See? So if I'm not clear with my own trauma, with my own, all that's going to trigger me. All that's going to bring back ugly memories. And all that I'm going to fight with anger and rage, but with no purpose. And I'm going to do that even with my own people that are trying to help me.
Yeah.
Because I'm angry. And I don't know how to focus my energy. I just know that I need to burst. And here you are trying to help me. Here you are trying to propel me. And I'm like, no, Dina, you don't understand me. No, it's that I don't understand me.
Yeah.
And I missed the point.
Yeah.
See? So that's what I mean. You know, it's good. Let's use that. Let's use that. Let's do it intentionally with focus and clarity, because our kids are watching.
They are watching.
And they're learning. See?
They are watching. A lot of young women and girls watch the confirmation of Supreme Court judge, the newly appointed pervert. They watched.
And a lot of the kids are like, you know what?
Hopefully
Adults.
they learned something from that whole thing.
Well, the way they're feeling is this: adults are failing us.
I don't want to fail. I really don't want to fail them. Because they go inside and they start to want to hurt themselves inside, and that's a terrible thing.
So even more the reason to be clear. See, more the reason to do your work.
Like you said, vulnerability. It's a really great approach, I think.
But we gotta be vulnerable.
Admit that we have faults, we have weaknesses, we have sometimes terrible ideas, and we act awfully sometimes. But you know what? That's not because we're bad. That's because we're human,
and we've been put through the grinder.
Journey, exactly. We have these processes, these things that have been programmed into us.
But we need to let that go. See?
Yeah.
Because,
it's a process of evolution.
Well, because
we all evolve.
It's like my spirit guide always says, is like, take your time, but please hurry up. Because listen, it's like you just told me right now, man. I haven't seen your kids in a long time, and they're getting bigger. I didn't even know the little one. Time, boom, 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 boom. Yeah. You just add water, a little bit of caring and love and food, and all of a sudden they're my size.
And attention. Yeah.
And exactly, and then before you know it, guess what? They learned exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta watch yourself.
That's the work.
Gotta watch yourself.
See what I'm saying? And then we're mad at our kids like, well, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Well, no, because we're not doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we are failing them if we're not doing that work. See? School doesn't teach us about self-love. Okay?
Yeah.
They don't teach us that. If they do, I don't... Tell me where so I can check it out.
Yeah.
They don't teach us about...
We should start our own.
There you go. And we're doing it.
We are doing it.
They don't teach us about spiritual connection.
Yeah.
Okay? To me, I believe our ancestors, our guardian angels are around us. And we can tune in. And that empowers us so much. But they don't teach us that. Why? You're enlightened. I'm enlightened. She's enlightened. We're a force. You think they want that? No. They want you to be quiet and go to work.
No critical thinking.
Please. And eat all that junk food that they're feeding us. Because guess what? Pharmaceutical money is big, big, big.
It's all getting political,
it's
girl.
All I'm saying is listen to me.
It's all political.
It's a game.
Yeah.
And they have the advantage.
Yeah.
So how we can start preparing is by releasing that doesn't serve us. Eating better. Okay? Because the schools, what are they feeding the kids? That bag of chips. That little box of sugar that is watered. Anything
to cloud your brain.
Anything that's going to put you back in the hospital. So that way you can pay for those pills.
Yeah.
It's a cycle, see? And when do we get out of that cycle? When we then start empowering our being and start believing in ourselves. When we say, hey, I'm a beautiful man and I have my faults, but all that is gone because I am committed to my purpose.
And you're tuned into your power.
And I know.
You're tuned into your power. And that's the number one thing that we teach.
Check it out. If I'm wearing a mask and if I'm driven by my ego and I get a lot of pats in the back, hey Crow, beautiful mural, hey Crow, good speech, hey Crow, beautiful book you wrote, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just driven by my ego. And I keep getting bigger, my ego keeps getting bigger because of all those pats in the back, all those likes on Instagram. Okay. But the minute they say, hey Crow, on the real, you're a piece of shit. You don't amount to nothing. You're no good. My ego is going to deflate. And I'll be like, phew. And I'm going to be sad for days. And all those likes, all of a sudden, no attention on Instagram, no attention anywhere. People are not patting my back no more. All of a sudden, I'm suicidal. Because I was counting on those people to prop me up.
Right.
That's nonsense.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
I do that for me.
Hence our dependency on all the social media approval.
That's our kids are learning that. See?
Yeah, I know.
So check it out. I know I'm beautiful. How do I know? Because I tell myself. Because I tell myself I'm beautiful. And if somebody else were to come, hey, Crow, you're beautiful. Thank you. Doesn't move me. Hey, Crow, you're a piece of crap. Thank you. It doesn't move me.
Well noted.
Who's telling me who I am? I am.
Yeah.
But what happens? A lot of our kids are growing up like, this is who you are. This is what you need to follow. Blah, blah, blah. This, you need. And kids believe that, see? And then they're not prepared for what's in front of them. Once they're out of their beautiful college or school, or some of us don't even go to college or school, and once they're in reality, when reality hits and they're on their own, then they're like...
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's not teach our kids that to be dependent on us propping them. We got to teach them how to prop themselves.
Yeah.
And how, if somebody is taken out, if somebody's taken out a leader, it don't matter. There's another leader right here. You're a leader. Step
We're
up.
not a sheep.
Boom.
Yeah.
We're all the same. We're all powerful. But we don't know that because we're not conditioned that way. We're conditioned to like, if you don't go to this fancy school, if you don't have that car, if you don't have the... See what I'm saying? Then we believe all this nonsense. But if we start empowering ourselves and our youth and each other, then if somebody's taken out, it don't matter. You would have to take all of us out because any one of us is the leader here. Because we're all leaders and we're all here to represent our cause. See that?
Yeah.
And then no egos are in the way. Nobody's like, well, I should be in the front. Sit down. Sit down. Let the truth speak. Let the women speak. See? That's the truth. Let the women speak. Let's put the woman that's the clearest from us all. And if you're not clear, take your time, but please hurry up. And if she's taken out, it's okay. We love you, and we will honor you. Next, who's next? Get in there. Put me in, coach. I'm ready. All right. We're on the front lines. And that's all I was telling you, see? I was telling you earlier, Irene and I and my family are in the front lines. If we end up homeless because we can't afford it, we end up homeless. If we end up without food, we end up without food. But that's not going to waver us from our cause, from our sole purpose to be here. See that?
Yeah.
And see how passionate I am?
Yeah, you're writing the manifesto as we speak.
I'm passionate, but I'm not angry, see?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that I'm just another foot soldier in the front line. And that's all good.
It's all good.
Put me in, coach. That's what it is. And that's what I'm sharing. So
Thank you.
let that go. Let that anger go. Let that... Because it ain't doing us no good. It's good to share openly. But at one point we got to release that. So that way we prepare our little ones.
I know. Yeah.
With that being said, I know it's getting late. Would you like to ask any questions to my spirit guide? I have it at the end of each segment where you get, if you want, to talk to my spirit guide for advice or just to have another little conversation. Or we can call it a day. And
I'm really not prepared for those questions. I was like, oh, spirit guide, I don't know, what should we do? And how do you... well, let me ask you that question instead of your spirit guide.
yeah.
How do you plug into that space? Is it an easy access or is it a difficult access?
No, we all have access.
We're all connected.
Yeah. And we get guidance moment to moment, but we don't listen to that.
Right.
Because we're caught up in our own mind of like, oh, that's a silly idea, right? I shouldn't do that. Take a day off from work? Who said that? Like, it's your guiding system telling you, yo, rest. You should take. Again, a lot of kids come up to me and they're like, well, Crow, shouldn't we have money? Yeah, it's part of the game. If we're going to play this game, we need some money. It's a tool. We need that. But the cure-all, what we need really is to be aligned with our being and know that that's the most important thing. Just like you said about your family. When you were coming from Moscow, if you would have been separated, the most important part of your life is your family. And if it would have been truly yanked apart, that would have hurt a lot.
Yeah.
No money, no material thing, no material wealth compares to that. See?
Absolutely.
So we gotta then understand that and see that, like, what's important here. My well-being, my baby's well-being. if I need to take a little break because I got a sign, I got a message, visually, intuitively, through my ears, whatever, through my heart, I need to listen to that. I need to slow down. But we won't. We were like, no, but I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and I gotta do that.
Overstimulation, that's the modern disease.
So by me disconnecting from all that, by me really tuning in and doing my introspective work daily. I still do it daily. It's a daily practice. I started tuning in. And from that, ever since I was a kid, I remember there being a presence. And I would feel it more at night. And it was never a scary presence, but it's a huge presence. And I would always wake up and be like, who's there? Because I could feel somebody staring at me. And nobody would answer. So I would turn on the light, and this almost grayish, smokish being would disappear. Later in life, as I understood, oh, that's one of my spirit guides. One of many. And they're all good. Because who makes them good? You do. If I'm in tune with goodness, then my spirit guides will be in tune with goodness. If I have a clouded, perverted, evil mind, then my spirit guides will be that way. See? So you have that vehicle in you. So it's been maybe 5 years that I've been vocal about it, that I felt prepared to be like, oh, my spirit guide is speaking through me. And one of the ways that when he comes in, my hand starts shaking. And then it's him that's speaking. And I literally imagine myself sitting down and taking notes from what he's saying. Because he ends up saying this very insightful information. Very simple. And more like reminders. They're more, because we all know this information. But a lot of times, again, we discontinue it because we're busy.
We're taught to ignore those things. I mean, I was brought up in the atheist culture. Staunchly atheist. And
good.
It's hard for me to rewire those processes.
That's the powerful thing, that this spirit guide concept or ideal is nothing to do with religion. Yeah, but the spiritual concepts are further away. Even though I've been working towards all that. I've been always interested in all those things. It's like...
and I understand what you're saying. That this language is very familiar to me. I just haven't experienced it with such breadth as what you're describing. I'm almost a little jealous here. It's cool.
It's the same thing as you doing the... what is it called?
Ambidextrous writing,
it's very similar.
painting. Yeah.
It's very similar to that.
No, we all have different access to different things, and that's just how we are. We're unique in that way.
So going back to the religious thing. I'm not religious. I've never been. My dad's a hippie. My mom was always working. So to her, going to Bible study and all that was out the door because she had to support us.
Yeah.
But traveling, that's been my teacher. And I've connected with Buddhists. I've connected with Muslims. I've connected with Christians, Catholics. And they all have a similar purpose, which is we want to do the good work.
Yeah.
But the minute that you say that you don't agree with them, or that they have the holy book or the other one doesn't, then that's when, or they have the sacred land, that's when there's trouble, see?
Yeah.
So that to me is nonsense, see? Because Creator, universe, is not doing that. We are.
Yeah, we create those obstacles.
So, I talk about this a lot. It's like, I have a friend who was quoting me the Quran and memorized it. He's like, oh, he's sharing these beautiful words. But I'm not learning again by his words. I'm learning by his vibration and by his actions. And his actions are they're not aligning with his words that he's memorizing, that he's trying to teach me, right? He's like, oh, you should do this, Crow, and you should do that. And I asked him, how often do you practice that? Like your words, your holy book. Well, it's hard. And those words are empty, brother.
Yeah.
They're empty because you're not... Commit to what you're saying. Commit. If that's your life purpose, to be a Muslim, which, hey, more power to you. Whatever your faith is, more power to you. But commit to being a good person. Commit to being what you're sharing. He's like, well, no, that's hard. I'm like, I know it's hard, but that's the work.
That is the work.
And then another friend, while we're in Brazil, was like, well, bro, but he's not Allah. I'm like, I'm not saying he's Allah. I'm just saying that he is judging others as if he is Allah.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is, hey, brother, be compassionate. Be compassionate because...
It's at the root of every religion, but we forget it. We prefer to focus on our differences.
I'm not political. I'm not religious.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But I have a life purpose. And that life purpose is between me and my God. Not your God, not his God, or not your atheist perspective. No, it's my connection to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And the universe speaks. And I listen. And it speaks through trees. It speaks through birds. It speaks through you. It'll speak through the children, especially the children. They're so tuned in. But we don't listen because they're kids. I know better. God, stop.
Yeah,
listen.
we suppress that in them.
I have gathered so much wisdom through my 2 daughters, through my 2 older kids.
I'm looking forward to that.
So much. It's abundance.
Yeah.
So anyhow.
That was awesome. Thank you
Cool.
so much.
Thank you.
Conversation. I knew it was going to be awesome. That's why I was like, let's connect, let's talk, let's see what comes out of that conversation. And of course, it's not just going to be a conversation. Hopefully, we'll take it a step further and collaborate again.
Yeah.
And not wait another 10 years.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah, time flies. Well,
but we're different people than we were back then, aren't we?
More season, more experience. Let's put it to use.
At least we were doing the right thing at the time, and we connected over a great cause. And
absolutely.
I'm glad we did.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to
My
come
pleasure.
and chit chat with me.
My
and
pleasure.
sharing, your stories and your wisdom. Thank you.
Likewise.
There we have it. I'll have Dina's Instagram at the bottom here. And thank you all for tuning in. And thank you, Dina.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
God bless.
Boom. And just like that.